Electrocast.
Wesley, where have you been? I have really missed you.
Who was this love of yours?
Oh, my sweet Wesley. A farm boy. Poor and perfect.
Why did you come here, Wesley?
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
We're gonna sizzler. It's Wesley month.
Strong stuff, all right. It'll take a month.
A month?
Wesley month.
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
Studi, Snipes, Ichishta. That's right, it's Wesley month here at Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host, Iris, and I'm here with the eponymous
Wesley bitches.
Today we're discussing a movie from 2002, the culmination of Wesley month, the bringing together of both Wesley Snipes and Wes Studi. Entering the ring is Undisputed.
Man.
Tell me, how did we come to Undisputed? Tell our listeners how we came to this movie.
Iris wanted to pay tribute to me, one of the Wesleys that's in discussion this month, the other being Snipes and Studi. She chose a few titles. I think we agreed on some titles. And I thought to myself, it's a shame that the Wesleys, Snipes and Studi, have never been in a movie together. They have been in a movie together. 2002's Walter Hill's Undisputed. And so we had to check that out.
It was a revelation that our two Wesleys coexisted in one movie. Although I have to say that I don't think that this Wesley month's collection of films is going to be our big listener draw. These are some pretty rando movies.
Is it because then Iris had to literally check this movie out from the library?
Library, as Dad would pronounce it. I checked out not only Undisputed, but also Geronimo, an American Legend from the LAPL. Do you know that the LAPL has like a very robust interlibrary loan system?
Apparently so, because they have a title like Undisputed and Geronimo, neither of which are readily available on any streaming services.
That's right. So dust off your copy of Undisputed for this discussion because we're going to go deep. Or get your library card and then request the interlibrary loan, and the DVD will be delivered to your home library. It's the bomb.
Is it a little bit weird that they would carry this movie, given that this movie is not a movie that Mom would call a woman's movie?
Not weird. More than just women go to the library.
It's true. And I guess they want to see sweaty dudes punching each other. And there was a woman in this movie. She played a very prominent role.
You mean the Iceman's rape victim?
No. Wow. No, the curly-haired lady who was all our exposition.
The
rape victim. Jesus.
I forget. She gets play. Darlene Early is either an attorney or was she the publicist for the prison or something?
Prison needs PR? I guess if you're Sweetwater and you have a high-profile boxing thing with a steel cage for boxing matches, maybe you need PR. But all of that stuff, all of this talk and everything, the build-up and the promotion and the high-profile, the arrest of Iceman, and this fight never got out, never got leaked. Because he was undefeated. He was undisputed champion when he got out of prison.
Well, it was because of the lack of documentation and witnesses, just considered lore.
Yeah. So Kelly Ray asked, was this based on Mike Tyson? Was this before or after? It was about 10 years after Mike Tyson went to prison, also for rape, for which he was convicted. And there were, obviously there would be rumors. So I think this was speculation dreamt up by the screenwriters. Like, what if Tyson did have a secret behind closed doors boxing match in prison with the reigning prison champ? That would be epic. We should write a movie about that.
And they did.
And you, Iris, being an expert on the movie Undisputed and the prison boxing system,
come on,
are going to be the subject of of today's interview for Or Whatever Movies about Undisputed.
Will you stop it?
To figure out how this movie became this Shawshank prison-style prison where you can do whatever you want, you can do everything except leave. It said it was the trailer called it a high security prison.
Yeah, because it was the rapists and the murderers, like the violent criminal offenders.
Right. So, I mean, they're not on lockdown all the time. They have activities. Even in the Shawshank Redemption, they were watching Rita Hayworth movies. But at the same time, do you subject violent criminals to things like boxing matches where they can be violent? Like, is there no insurance?
Wait a second. There are multiple Undisputeds?
This is what I was getting to. So apparently Undisputed was a thing. In Undisputed 2, Last Man Standing, Michael Jai White takes over Ving Rhames' role as the Iceman, where he goes up against his primary opponent is Boyka. So Boyka then becomes the subject, apparently, of Undisputed 3 Redemption. And so much so, because Michael Jai White doesn't even appear in the third one. So the story becomes taken over by Boyka, so much so that Undisputed 4 is called Boyka.
Boyka Undisputed.
Well, according to the poster.
Wow. This spawned 3 sequels?
3 sequels, none of which relating to the Wesley Snipes character of Monroe.
It's all just prison fights?
Right. It's like Friday the 13th, where it's not Jason at all, and then it becomes about Jason as the series progresses.
So back to your original question, were you asking how does a movie like Undisputed get made?
Well, kind of both. How does this prison work where Monroe can be like, his friend is like, this is your house. And he's like, if it was my house, I could get up and leave. But he gets up at random and starts jogging around the yard with no other prisoners. He can just do whatever he wants because he's the inter-prison champ.
Yeah, he gets special dispensation because Michael Rooker needs a game and he needs his champ to be fit for his game.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or bout or whatever you call a boxing match.
If that's the case, does he go into solitary confinement as a means of fight preparation or to make sure that he doesn't get hurt or have any other confrontations that would jeopardize his ability to win a fight against Iceman?
I don't think it was his choice. I think it was Michael Rooker's choice, the Merker character.
Yes.
But it was for his safety. It was for Monroe Hutchins' safety.
Wait, who
for him to go into solitary until the bout.
Who played that character? Michael Rooker. Who? Michael Rooker. Merker.
Rooker?
Merker. Is that how he got his character name?
I think that's the second most famous contact I have in my phone, Michael Rooker.
You have Michael Rooker in your phone?
Yeah, no, third most famous contact. I don't know. I guess it's
behind Nathan Fillion and who else?
Alan Tudyk.
So, yeah, Michael Rooker in this, a lot of cast, including the Focus, Wes Studi, and Wesley Snipes. What is the closest that the Wesleys get in this movie? Do they ever share a scene?
they really don't. I mean, they're all at the match, obviously, because Wes Studi becomes Iceman's like de facto cut man.
Right. Wait,
but
what did you call him?
Cut man, isn't that what they're called? Cut
no,
man.
I know. What did you call Ving Rhames?
Iceman. What?
There's an old Friends joke where Phoebe talks about Spider-Man and you called him Iceman. And Chandler's like, it's not his name. He's not like Phil Spider-Man. Why do you call him Iceman? It's like Bob Iceman.
Iceman. The Iceman.
The Iceman.
Come on.
Yeah, he cometh for Monroe, who is in prison for murder, right?
Monroe's for, yes, but it was like self-defense murder.
No possibility of parole self-defense murder? Even Nicolas Cage got early parole or whatever.
Was that a Face-Off reference? No. Monica Potter in Flight something.
No.
Shoot, what's it called?
Con Air.
That's what God was going to say. Con Air.
Did they?
That's a Con Air reference.
Did they or did they not, based on Michael Rooker's recommendation, weld Monroe into solitary confinement?
That was strange. I must admit. It's because you cannot contain the Hutchin. Like he's gonna bust out of there if you don't weld him in.
Wait,
that was bizarre.
Is it Monroe or is it Hutchins? Who are we talking about?
Monroe Hutchin.
Yeah. Got it. Kelly Ray was like, they didn't weld him in. I was like, they did it twice. Like, does he have a little shower and toilet in the corner that we're not seeing?
I have no idea.
And Kelly Ray was like, maybe he goes in a bucket. And I was like, how do you get the bucket in there? It's welded. That violates fire codes in a big way. If they could get a bucket through the little feeding thing, that bucket had to be full of millions and millions of toothpicks, right?
Of course, because that's his meditative activity.
You could totally form a prison shank out of glued together toothpicks. I guarantee it.
If you can make a prison shank out of a carrot, then yes, you can do it out of toothpicks.
Wasn't it a little bit like, it was like a comedy. It was like a Naked Gun or one of those farcical comedies where you see a guy doing a craft and they get more and more elaborate. And every time you check on him, it's gigantic. And he's like making full size pagodas and stuff. Like, it was absurd. Like, he could make a little boat or something. And you're like, oh, he's got a thing. That's cute. And then later he's got a full size, he's got like Chinese architecture in his cell. It's so weird.
I think it was supposed to be like his demeanor is very Buddhist.
Is it?
I don't know.
He's a Zen
Maybe
master?
I was reading into it. He was super Zen, and he was and he was illustrating that through his weeby pagoda toothpick castle.
Those are the most dangerous, the Miyagi types, right? Who have all the bursts of energy and the fighting skills. Because Monroe was definitely coming. Wesley Snipes definitely brought the Blade voice to Monroe, right?
Definitely. The discussion for which is available at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts.
In the midst of Wesley Month.
Wait, so what have we covered in Wesley Month?
So we started out with Hostiles, White Men Can't Jump, Geronimo, an American Legend, Blade, and now where the culmination is Undisputed.
All with your favorite Wesleys.
And so in this particular case, this is why the Wesleys aren't really together in this movie. I did note there is one scene where they're actually in the same place at the same time, and that is in the middle of the cage, because the camera swings from Ving Rhames' Iceman corner to Wesley Snipes' Monroe corner, and you can see that both Wesleys are actually in the cage at the same time. But that's kind of it.
Yeah, I was super bummed that Mingo Pace didn't become Wesley Snipes cut man.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit too close. The Wesleys. I don't know. It seems like Wesley Snipes is weird and at this point was like keeping to himself and all like being pissy or whatever. So he was like, weld me into the cell and just like on his own with his toothpicks. Like, it almost felt like he was a secondary character, and the character with not a lot of range, because he was there and he fights, and then he goes and chews his toothpick, and then he fights, and that's kind of it, because he's in there for life, and there's no hope. I really would have thought that it's like, man, this guy's got nothing, right? And when Ving Rhames gets early parole, that's another thing I have to ask you about. Why didn't the second one come where they have to team up tag team style against the Russians or something? Where really, like, we're just going to leave Monroe in prison and he beat the heavysweight champion of the world, but nobody saw it or knew about it?
That's the whole idea. What's your question?
Nothing, I guess.
Oh, I mean, isn't the beauty of Rocky that he doesn't win?
The beauty of Rocky is that he's a nobody over the hill bum who fights his way through grit and determination to be the world champion. Wesley Snipes starts off no better than he was. He was the king in there. He's still the king in there when the new guy comes in, and he's stuck there for life.
Are you the king if nobody knows about it?
Exactly. If the tree falls in the woods and no one is around to witness it, does it make a sound? Why is Wes Studi in this movie? Do you know the answer to that question?
Like, how was he cast?
Who directed Undisputed?
Walter Hill?
The director of Geronimo, an American Legend?
Wait, what?
Yep. So weird.
How did I miss that?
It was the polar opposite of that movie. Wide open vistas, an open country. This was all confined quite literally. There were lots of schematics and diagrams and lower thirds. It felt very technical. It felt very modern and confined. It was such a weird direction change, albeit 9 years later.
He was director of both, did he? And he produced both.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But you know how there's a thing in most movies? Like, I thought that was the thing that would make me go, what? And that totally wasn't it.
What was the thing?
Wes Studi is Iceman's cellmate and in a way his sort of coach or assistant or whatever as he navigates his way through prison life, moving toward the fight the entire time with Monroe Hutchins. Yeah?
Yeah.
Who is Wesley Snipes' sidekick?
Ratbag.
Ratbag. The guy who stands up to Iceman at one point, does what he says, and still gets clocked in the chest really bad.
All Alan style from The Hangover.
Right.
Just like Mike Tyson just takes him right out. He's like the publicist for the family in Succession. Not that you would know since you don't watch TV.
Oh my God.
but still doing his thing.
Yeah. And she's like, it's him. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Wait
and then
a
I
second.
went, what is the other Geronimo connection in Undisputed?
Wait a second. I don't know, but he's Ben Jabatuya.
Ben Jabatuya. And the other connection is I was like, you're right. And I high-fived Kelly Ray, who recognized him, and she said, I know my Indians.
I know my Indians, therefore he's Ben Jabatuya?
He's... Oh, God.
What?
It was an Indian connection joke.
Wow. Fisher Stevens from Short Circuit fame is Ratbag, playing a completely different character in Undisputed. This is so bizarre.
And not my favorite cameo, but unrecognizable in the role of one of the rappers/singers in the pregame show before the fight, Master P. I worked with that dude.
On what show?
Master P was in Growing Up Hip Hop, as he is the dad of Lil Romeo, now known as Romeo.
No way.
Yeah, Master P, I was in an edit bay, I was leaning back in the chair, and I swung around, and it left a scrape on the wall, all black. So I turned around and I hunched down, and I was trying to rub at this mark on the wall. And Master P comes into the edit bay and goes, hey, you sleep? And I was like, no. And he went, can't be sleeping. And then he was asking questions about the show. And then we had our premiere party for the first episode of Growing Up Hip Hop, and they ordered empanadas for the crew. And then I watched the sneak teach Master P what an empanada is. He walked up to the box and said, what this is? And she's like, oh, it's an empanada, and explained that it's packed with stuff, and these are the different flavors, and it has a little brand on the top so you know what each one is.
I mean, they're not that complicated. And so did he yell at you again?
No, I don't have him in my phone, but you stay out of Master P's way. Master P, legendarily, you know who Suge Knight is, right? By name and probably by reputation?
Yes.
Suge Knight is a bad dude. And legend has it that when Master P moved from New Orleans to L.A. and started No Limit Records, Suge Knight called him up and said, hey, this town isn't big enough for the two of us. And Master P said, well, I just bought a house here, so when are you leaving?
So the legend goes?
So the legend goes, you don't mess with Master P. I don't even know what to say to Master P, so that when he was walking down the hallway, do you know what I said to him in greeting? I said, Mr. Master P, which was not a cool thing to say. Good morning, And it wasn't right. But I'm not in that world.
Wes,
Whereas
seriously.
One of the editors was walking, and I kind of observed because I wanted to be cool. And how do you coolly address and respectfully address Master P? EJ's solution was to say, what up, P? And it worked much better.
Oh, it went over well?
Oh, yeah. So that's how you address Master P. Not even my favorite musician rapper cameo. My favorite musician cameo was undoubtedly Ed Lover as the fight commentator.
Ed Lover.
Oh, my God. And I remember, I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. They wanted to know what the Foley stuff was for the sound effects. And the punching sounds in Raiders of the Lost Ark was a bundle of celery being slapped against a leather jacket over a pillow.
Okay.
And that's what it sounded like, all the punching sounds. But I was listening to Ed Lover's commentary because no matter what, no matter where, it would be like whoosh, whoosh. And Ed Lover's screaming, he's dizzy as a motherfucker. Gonna give him a one-way ticket to Bootyville. And I was like, what does that mean? That was the best.
This is golden because you can't get that kind of commentary on paper, even on pay-per-view.
Right? Oh, so
this
good.
is prison-specific commentary.
But I'm telling you, this movie exists like in Ready Player One, where you can go climb a mountain with Batman or do whatever. This is like if you go to the very specific boxing planet where there's prison boxing with much more fun commentary. And this is where you control a prison riot by blasting the ceiling. Michael Rooker's like, shoot the ceiling. He has open firearms in the midst of a prison riot. That gun's not going to be taken away. The rules were so weird in this world. You gotta weld him into solitary.
I guess the corrupt warden trope is probably based more in reality, but just this whole idea that there could be a interpenitentiary boxing league.
Apparently they do all kinds of stuff. And I know that they have, basketball and sports and things like that in prison, but as to how that stuff is organized.
Well, I mean, whether true or not, this is the premise of Undisputed. And apparently this started with Walter Hill and Wesley Snipes.
Who produced the movie.
Right, and Wesley Snipes talks in the DVD Extras interview about how he was like, Walter Hill, how about you do your thing and I do my thing? And my thing is fight choreography. And all of the boxing matches were choreographed by Wesley Snipes.
Interesting.
Well, and his team.
I mean, it wasn't worse than Rocky or anything. I'm not sure that the boxing, like, this isn't going to win any choreography awards.
No, but I think that the boxing was convincing enough that I was definitely wondering at times if they were using archival of like famous fights and stuff.
Man, Kelly Ray was even absorbed in the boxing matches.
I wish I understood a little bit more about where they were in terms of who was winning. There's knockouts, but then there's this whole complex point system for boxing, and it seemed like, you know, in lieu of a knockout, right, you fall back on points. I was thinking about how you talked about Don't Kill the Kilts in Braveheart.
Yeah.
In our discussion of Napoleon, which is available at orwhatevermovies.com, wherever you get podcasts, how it's really important from a filmmaking perspective to let the audience know exactly where you stand in the midst of the battle. And I didn't understand that, but it felt real. And I think mostly because it felt brutal.
Felt celery smacky. Yeah, I go over to Kelly Ray's parents' house for Super Bowl, and I'm generally confused. Ball go this way, make touchdown, right? Ball go that way, make touchdown. All the downs and all the taking a knee, I don't really understand all the finer aspects. And so occasionally everyone will go, oh, and I'm like, what? What did I miss? So Kelly, during Undisputed, went, oh, and I went, what? And she said, I don't know. That just seemed like a really good hit. And I was like, okay. So she was tracking it and engrossed. But more than who is winning, because the prison rules were different. Apparently, she explained to me, this wasn't a solid 10 count, as in official boxing. If an opponent gets knocked down, he has 90 seconds to get up. So until Iceman went fully down on his face, but then he even struggled up, and she's like, wait, I thought you had 90 seconds. So I think it was unclear for everybody. My question is, who were you rooting for? Who were we as an audience positioned to be rooting for? Was it, oh my gosh, there's virtue in both of them winning, and so this is so nerve-wracking because both deserve to win, warrior style? Like, who did you expect to win?
Monroe Hutchin.
Because he was the undisputed champion and Iceman was kind of a punk? Was it also because Iceman was kind of a rapist?
Yes, all of the above. And he's also the underdog.
And yet Ving Rhames' character, not played by Ving Rhames, was the focus of the second movie until it transitioned away from even him. I went into the fight saying, this is interesting because I don't know who we're supposed to be rooting for. It's about respect and their separate worlds or whatever. Iceman wanted respect for being the champ on the outside, whereas Monroe, his whole world was about his reputation inside. And thus he needed to maintain that. And they both did. And then Iceman got out and was able to be a champion in his own world again. And Wesley Snipes is playing with his toothpicks. It was an interesting setup that I didn't feel was particularly clear. Do you know why it was agreed upon by the powers that be that should Iceman agree to a fight with Hutchins, the prison champ, that would earn him a special parole for rape? Like, there was no character redemption for him.
Yeah, it was basically like if he makes Peter Falk a whole bunch of money, then Peter Falk will pull the necessary strings and Iceman's out. So that all tracked. But then why doesn't Peter Falk just pull strings for himself and his buddy?
I don't know. Do we care? Are we supposed to care about Columbo? Are we supposed to care about Chewie, who got his moment as a narrator? Didn't he? Didn't Chewie narrate for a second there?
I think it was like a phone call that was made VO.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do we care about those characters?
Maybe Chewie stands up to the mob or whatever and is like, hey, my job here is to take care of Mendy, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm not here to fix your game.
It was interesting. It was a narrow cast of characters because we can only have so many people inside the prison, and mostly they were represented by stars. But yeah, it was a little bit scattered.
And so this is my question about Undisputed. There are two ways that this could have gone down. Walter Hill made a film and was like, God, this is boring. And then supercharged it with like all of these motion graphics. And it became this like multimedia bonanza. Or do you think that was the intent all along? Like, we're going to make this film, but we're going to make it really flashy and it's going to be super cool.
No, I think the idea of a secret boxing championship, so to speak, in prison has some appeal. There's stakes and it's dangerous in this already dangerous world. It feels like a good premise that was sort of unrealistic in its execution, which is interesting.
And I get that too, but was it a small film that they were trying to make bigger with the black and white, the freeze frames and the lower thirds and all that? Or did they set out to make a really flashy, ultimately very distracting film?
This movie employed a lot of tricks to make it flashier and more stylized, but I think the issue with this movie is not the way it looked, but I think the muddiness in terms of the stakes and the morality. Iceman's accuser, we got all up in her face for her testimony, for her deposition, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You felt really
Right.
bad for her. And then we cut to him where he's like, I ain't giving that bitch shit. And you're like, whoa, dude, you're not the likable one. And so he lost a fight, and I guess that tracks. But he also, in losing the fight, got to get released and became world champion. It's like all of them are bad because all of them are in prison, but some of them are better than others, and thus those are the heroes. It was a little bit murky for me. And so stylistically, I think that it was propping up a morally dubious movie. It was like a one-way ticket to Bootyville, but I didn't really understand what this movie was trying to sell me other than spectacle, I guess.
I think it's supposed to be transportive. And I guess I didn't wade into the moral quagmire. I was just so distracted by all of this stuff. Like, I don't think that we needed to know who half of the characters who were ID'd were.
And that was kind of my thing. If we got a lower third, that means they're important, right?
Right, but were they?
No. And that's why I wrote down Chewie and what was Columbo's name?
Peter Falk's name was Mindy Ripstein.
Yeah, and then by the end I was like, wait, so he died and Chewie is like our narrator. Were we supposed to care? Or did he disappear like Matt Damon in Geronimo for too long to really matter?
I just think he's a secondary character that is a function of the plot. We don't need him to be ID'd. It felt like a lot of information that I was trying to hold in my head and process.
Exactly.
That was actually ultimately irrelevant.
Being propped up by style, we're given a blueprint of the movie, but it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make a difference in terms of how this movie is presented to us. It's a curious way that we view sports figures as they shouldn't be role models, but as of people of interest that we look up to because of their physical achievements. It's very curious. And I think that this movie trades wholly on the idea that the tougher you are, the better you are as a person, or the more likable a character.
Okay.
I viewed it as a curiosity of a parade of people that I'm kind of like Geronimo. I'm like, how are all these people in this movie? But I didn't hate it. I'm sort of on the fence. I'm not a prisoner to this movie. I'm fighting my inclination to give this movie a bad review, but the best thing about this movie was its application in 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'll be like, oh yeah, and so-and-so and Fisher Stevens and Wes Studi were in Undisputed together, and people would be like, who? And I'd be like, look it up at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts.
So you're saying it wasn't a knockout?
Oh, God. So what you should do is watch Warrior, which frankly is a better boxing movie, but the morality between Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, which one is supposed to win? I think it's for better reasons, but this one was kind of the opposite. It was like, who's more reprehensible, and thus who deserves to be knocked the hell out and get a one-way ticket to Bootyville.
You can't get over it.
Oh, God.
Whatever that means. And your final rating is?
It was all right, but that's loose. It's tenuous.
Listen, this is the culmination of Wesley Month. It's a shame, and it's really no personal attack against you, but I have to give Undisputed boring.
You wouldn't be the only one, man.
So that's our discussion on Undisputed from, what was it, 2002? Starring none other than Wesley Snipes and Wes Studi. What did you think of Wesley Month? What should we do for our next theme month? Keeping in mind that we've already done James Cameron Month and Nicolas Cage Month and Christopher McQuarrie Month here at Or Whatever Movies. Let us know, 818-835-0473. or whatevermovies@gmail.com. Wes, you get the final word.
One-way ticket to Bootyville.
And thanks for listening.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, that's the set. No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown. On this show, we come to humanize
athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electricast. Electricast.